a different exercise for me as well, because it's not usually the topic I'm used to talk about that much. I'm a little bit out of my comfort zone, so we thought it would be good to put everyone out of their comfort zone to start with. And Lorna has this little intriguing exercise prepared for us. We tried it with artists before and it worked exceptionally well. So let's see how scientists do. So competitive edge already.
Yeah.
Awakened.
So this is just a bit of an experiment. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. It also doesn't matter. We may not actually share it. Yeah. So basically what I want you to do is to take a postcard and a pen and to write about a memory you have about plants. And if you could start by writing, I remember, and then thank you.
Okay. I really enjoyed these nervous laughs to start with, but I think, yeah, maybe later. But I think we'll just go on then. I think you can even take a little bit of time to consider what you want to write, but yeah, let's give a minute then. I see people are straight on it, so.
It's amazing, like people just straight away started writing. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think we'll move on. I don't want to interrupt anyone's reflective process, but yeah, we'll go on. So guys, like just look at this painting, a really beautiful one. And what is the first thing you notice? Don't overthink your answer. The tiger would be the typical answer, in fact, and this is one of the manifestations of, I think, of a concept called plant blindness or plant awareness disparity. It's this natural cognitive bias where we tend to notice animals first, things that move first, and as a result, we may underappreciate the role of plants that they play in ecosystem in general, in our own culture, in really our survival, because surely without plants we would all be dead, really. So it's also really interesting. It's a painting by Henri Rousseau. It's really interesting looking at the plants portrayed in this painting themselves. So for example, this is a rubber plant that would not be in a tropical jungle. Mothers-in-law tongue plant that also would not be typically found in the tropical forest, but they were very common potted plants, still are, when Rousseau was working on this work. So you can see some manifestations of plant blindness already dating back to the late 19th century. So plant blindness has consequences that are quite negative when it comes to things like conservation initiatives and how funds are allocated, or even how different conservation initiatives are managed. It's not something that we should try to erase. It's a natural cognitive bias, just our brains are wired, but it's something we should be working with, and we should put efforts into increasing the awareness and appreciation of plants at different scales, also societal scale. And Lorna here is this wonderful artist who I met when she, for some reason, decided to do a plant cell molecular degree in the first year, despite having this wonderful career. But I'm super grateful that you did, because I got to meet you and then I got to work with you on numerous projects involving art. And today we want to talk about a few experiences that we had working together. It's a royal way because Lorna, in fact, was doing all the work. And I just had chats with Lorna, having numerous cups of coffee. So all very pleasant from my side. Thank you. Where we try to explore how people interact with plants through the medium of art. So I guess the idea is that if we want to really promote plant awareness and appreciation at the societal scale, a good first step would be to understand better how people connect and interact with plants. And this way we can feed this knowledge into outreach initiatives, how things are communicated, how our own plant science research and biodiversity research is communicated to the public. And arts is a unique medium that can assist these efforts because you can attract very different audiences through art that you would not necessarily reach or you would not engage with using different approaches. And also art is really unique in terms of allowing some reflection on your personal narrative related to the topic. You can share your personal narratives through art as a creator as well that can provoke emotional responses in the audience. And this is really quite unique data that you can measure and analyze and then feed into future initiatives. So we've done a couple of projects over the last few years. And the one we decided to talk about today is the most recent project, which wasn't focused on plants specifically, but plant research really fed so nicely into this initiative that I thought it had this value integrating plant science with different aspects of science and politics. What else? The general narrative of what happened in the world over the last 5 years, really. So, Lauren, do you want to say a few words about this project?
I worked on this while I was UCD College of Science artist in residence. I was in a room at the end of a corridor in Science East, Science West, where absolutely nobody knew I was there. I worked away in splendid isolation.
Just for online.
Oh yeah, sorry. So I brought a group of tapestry weavers. I'm in 2 different or 3 different tapestry weaving groups, but this is a group called the Timelines Tapestry Weaving Group. Now, tapestry weaving is a very solitary occupation. And weavers typically spend long periods of time on their own weaving. So this group wanted to work collaboratively, weaving something collaboratively. And for this project, we also wanted to try and conceive an image, a design, a narrative, an idea collaboratively. So we worked in the studio several times over the course of a year, and we then created this design together. So the impulse for the design was we met after the pandemic. It was the first time we had all met for several years after all the lockdowns, and these were the things that were most predominant. And really the thing that was most predominant was how in times when things get difficult, when things get difficult and you are shut down, what do you do? What's the thing that you hang on to? And for almost ubiquitously, it was the garden, plants, how nature finds a way. I don't know if you all remember that kind of wonderful sense of like nature is kind of reclaiming itself in the quiet. So we created this tapestry. It was 1 meter. It's 1 meter wide by 5 meters long. It's currently in just finishing in one place in Cork, going to be in City Hall in Cork. It's also going to be in the Dunamaze Art Centre and in Wexford. But will I talk about the image of? Oh, I'll let you talk about that. I think, yeah.
As a part of the design process, Lorna asked me if her artist mates can come to talk to my PhD students about their research projects. PhD students were totally freaked out. They were like, oh, I don't know, who would be interested in cells and gene regulatory networks? I don't know. Turns out it ended up quite well. So this is one of my PhD students who just completed his project last year. Rory, he was showing his research on plant cell culture, program cell death, what genes regulate these processes, engaged artists looking at some of the images we collected during our research. It was really interesting. I think everyone, again, was out of the comfort zone. Artists were really surprised by things they've seen, but PhD students were also really reluctant. No one really wants to look at that apart from, you know, scientific journals or something like that. So it was a good exercise in communication, I guess, for everyone. And one of the really nice experiences for me as well that made me rethink the way I communicate science with different publics was actually providing these images that we collected during a project where plants were challenged with very, very real stress of waterlogging. We noticed that in Ireland, weather is getting wetter in the winter or in the spring. That has challenges for crop production, but plants have ways to deal with these stresses. They can't just run away. They are not moving. So instead, they adapt their morphology. And they what plants do, they create these holes in their root tissues that enable them to suck up the oxygen from the non-submerged plants. This is called arrangement. It was such a difficult project. I almost lost my mind with the poor student who worked on it, Orla Sherwood. We were doing these sections, collecting roots. It was super cold. We were wearing like triple mask because it was still during COVID. I was really pregnant at the time. It was awful. Paper still not published, by the way. Yes. Don't recommend. But it was really nice to show this image to the artists. And we at this time, we hated these images, by the way. But then it was really interesting to see that other people found beauty in cross sections of the root tissue of barley, and they actually were converted to this beautiful tapestry. And who can say that about their PhD, right?
And actually, I still remember
Orla.
the moment that we went into the lab after Orla and Joe and Rory had talked to the weavers, and we went up to the lab, and I can just remember this, like, you know, these images that Orla was showing us on the microscope. And I even myself, because I suppose I was seeing them.
Yeah, you've seen them
as images
before.
in the lab, and suddenly I was seeing them again. It was like really nice to see
New
how beautiful
context.
these images actually are. And also this one in particular is useful because it's really about the sort of nitty-gritty of plant resilience, how plants actually adapt and respond to challenging environments and circumstances.
So sometimes they sacrifice some cells for the organism to survive. I thought it was really interesting conversation because we treat it as given when we work on a topic on daily basis, but it was a good conversation, I thought. It was really interesting to hear the feedback from the artists afterwards. They said, for example, some quotes, I was excited and a little overwhelmed. Looking into microscopes was a first for me, images never considered before. For that, I'm grateful. Opened up fantastic science images to me and made me feel like there was a real connection between science and art. So it's really nice to rediscover your own work using maybe slightly different lenses. So this is the tapestry presented in Roscommon. It was quite interesting that it's a very multi-layered work. We have images of plant from individual cells. Here are the chloroplasts, individual subcellular structures. Here is the root cross-section, plants as a part of a landscape, I guess, but this is interlaced with, for example, that doesn't work. That represents like viral infection, right, at the cellular level here. Or we have the symbolic image here that can be treated as a reference to climate change and increasingly volatile weather, but it could be also treated to war in Ukraine as a reference to war in Ukraine that also happened during that period captured by the tapestry. And it's all very nicely intertwined together. Like I was, the longer you look at this tapestry, like I think really well done, guys, capturing this depth of experiences. But I thought, while talking to artists and the audience of the exhibition, I thought it was really interesting how your own relationship with plants and the relationship to science in general can be enhanced through emotions that are invoked by art. So what came out here, as you said, the lessons of resilience from plants. People were talking about their experiences during COVID, how hard it was. We were talking how plants cope with different stresses when they can't move. I thought it was really like, I wouldn't say there would be a connection, but there was. It was really interesting conversation. And again, plants as a source of solace and joy, that they really keep coming up, like as you said, Lorna, before. And it really made us all feel very connected to each other. It was, despite like taking the impact of the public aside, scientists who were involved in the project and artists who were involved in the project felt very connected to each other. It was a really inspiring process both ways. It was a dialogue and partnership. It wasn't, I think it was like a good process for us for the future. But also the whole tapestry, I thought it really aligned so well with One Health strategy. And the conversations really were almost like a PR for One Health strategy. And some of the similarities between art process and science process were quite remarkable. I know this is discipline specific, but what you said about being on your own and working and planning, I think plenty of people here probably went through that as scientists, right? So it was really quite interesting. So I think this work and other projects that we worked on all together really show that arts can provide new lens of looking at plants, and it enhances these personal narratives on both sides. On your, as a scientist, you have some personal narrative, you do what you do for certain reasons. You have your own life story. Artists have their own life story, and your audience also start to think about their own personal relationship with plants as well. And this response can be harnessed and used to design outreach initiatives that would make the public appreciate plants a little bit more and recognize the role they play in our own lives, and how it is something worth investing in and protecting plant biodiversity. I think what's really critical in initiatives like that is meaningful collaboration between artists and botanists. Like, I don't think I could do this project with any artist. I think you also need to find right scientists for your projects as well. Sometimes we presume that, I think as scientists, we presume, you know, we are dying to talk to about our work to whoever will listen. But I think this is sometimes a bit presumptuous. Like, I don't think we're appear as accessible sometimes as we would like to believe, because I thought, you know, some of the comments from artists were like, oh my goodness, microscope. You know, we presume this is some, and we don't appreciate our own work from that angle as well. So I think we almost need like a matchmaking exercise, trying to find artists to work with, or artists who want to get inspired by science. Like, I think it would be a nice initiative.